So just got out of Logan, and initial reaction, if they can keep this up, then they might redeem themselves for the horrible Fox Marvel movies that have come out before this. But now they've got Logan, Deadpool, and most of Days of Future Past to redeem them. So it's showing a good trend. That was amazing. Like, subscribe, share, retweet. GenerallyNerdy.net is the website, and I'll do a proper... I don't have video for this because my camera's acting up, but I will have video to do the rest of this review. So enjoy Logan. For anybody who is actually watching / listening to this, spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen it and you care about spoilers, stop listening now and watch the movie. We'll talk when you're done. And cue the music.
Generally Nerdy.
Thank you for watching again. I know I did it in the pre, but just since I'm recording on at a separate time the rest of this, yes, thank you, and let's get into Logan. Great movie. Easiest answer to if somebody says, is that Logan movie any good? Should I go see it? Should I wait for it to come out on video? Not that anybody really waits for it to come out on video anymore, from my experience, but yes, absolutely, go see Logan. It's fantastic. Spoiler alert again. I'm gonna spoil the shit out of Logan. Although, if you're paying attention and you know a little bit about the meta information that comes with this movie, then you know that. Then you should be able to see some of these things. They're not all really spoilers. This movie... So, conjecture that I gave for what to expect on one of my weekend nerddoms was... They're not going to give us much of the actual Old Man Logan story. They couldn't... It's really difficult because the Old Man Logan story deals a lot with a lot of other characters. I mean, most of the X-Men are dead in Old Man Logan, so that's one thing they couldn't really do, and because then it would really confuse the shit out of people. This is an Elseworld story for all intents and purposes, so they don't really do a whole lot of... They don't really set that up. They don't really make it. This is an alternate future. They don't really have that in the book or in this movie. So like that was for somebody who doesn't know what they're expecting. That could be confusing. Like I know I'm gonna get a text message from my dad going, "Wait, so how are they gonna have any more movies with Wolverine in it if he's dead?" I mean, they do reference the fact that it's 2029 once, but by and large, I feel like that's a pretty confusing element for the movie, is that they don't really establish its future enough. I mean, Professor X is senile and he's going crazy and he's having, he's got a degenerative brain disease. So like they kind of cover that, and that kind of gives you a little bit more of an indication that this is in the future. But, again, by and large, they don't really establish the fact that it's in the future very much, especially because he's using a phone that he probably has since 2017. So, just a little bit of confusion. Again, for the uninitiated, that's gonna be one of the bigger things, I feel like. But yeah, it starts out very similar to the book. He's driving a limousine and taking care of senile Professor X. So there's that much to go off of. But other things that I thought that we were going to get, the book deals a lot with the Hulk, who is not a Fox Marvel property, so they couldn't deal with the Hulk. It also has some Red Skull and a bunch of these villains that Fox Marvel doesn't have access to, so they couldn't do it. I do really like, though, the angle that they went with for the antagonist in this, because again, in the books it deals a lot, it's in Hulkland, it deals a lot with the Hulk and the things that he's doing, because he's a villain in Old Man Logan, and they meet up, and Bruce and Logan, aka James Howlett, which they reference in the movie a few times, which is really awesome. But yeah, they have a conversation, and Hulk says, I just don't want to be a villain superintendent or something like that. And then he eats Wolverine, and then Wolverine wakes up in his gut and kills him by breaking out. So yeah, that's how kind of the main Old Man Logan story ends. I haven't read any of the continuing story. I honestly didn't know it was more than just the one book until very recently, so my bad on the nerd cred. Sorry about that. So they couldn't do that, but they did tie in all of the Fox Marvel things that they can. So one of the things that we've known forever about Wolverine is they took his memory and they did it at this shady place in Canada called Alkali Lake, and it's owned by this really shady company who we know in the comics is linked to Mr. Sinister. They're doing a lot of biogenetic stuff, but they tie all of that, because we get that in the movie too, Alkali Lake and all that jazz. We get all that Weapon X stuff in the movies, and then they kind of bring it all together, and that's still the main antagonist in Wolverine's life. That's still the big bad. I feel like, again, like I said in my Week in Nerddom, I feel like if they're gonna keep that being his big bad, they could play that into an Omega Red, like a Russian, a cooperative Russian military thing that begets Omega Red, and then that could fight whoever the new Wolverine is once they recast him. I'm sure it's going to be probably, 3-4 years before they decide they want to recast the role of Wolverine. But it's going to happen. We're going to get a new, younger Wolverine. Hugh Jackman has done fantastically for the last 17 years. But he's done, and, let him be done. It's totally cool. So the big bad is Transigen, which is tied to the Weapon X program, because Wolverine killed the guy who runs Transigen, killed his father, who was running the program out at Alkali Lake, and therein lies conflict. One separation from the books, again, this is the movie universe. They actually reference the books fairly well in that they kind of do very good things to separate the two. The little girl, Lara, X-23, she reads comic books, and they're X-Men comic books, because this is an X-Men movie. But, so she reads the comic books, and he finds her comic books and says, maybe about a third of this actually happened, and it definitely didn't happen like this. This is all lies. So that is kind of a nod to the comics, and also a nod to the fact that nerds usually hate movie adaptations of their favorite comics, because they can't, by and large, do very much as far as being faithful to the source material. I mean, in the current situation we're in now, when it comes to movies, that's a different story, because we get these episodic movie, this episodic movie content. But when we first started getting comic book movies, they had to jam-pack a bunch of stuff into one movie, so you can't be 100% faithful, because you have to make it your own. That's artistic license. You also have to make it entertaining, and a lot of the entertainment from comic books comes from serializing the story, so you get one story over the course of months, and you can't really do that in a movie, so that changes the landscape, if you will. So, because of that, because of all of the changes, all of the liberties that they take when they make these movies, usually there's a lot of outcry. Oh, they messed this up. Oh, they messed that up. I'm not gonna lie, I do it myself. I do have there are certain things in my book that I feel like are essential parts of certain characters, and if they leave that part out, then I get a little huffy puffy about it too. So don't think I'm trying to separate myself too much from the general nerd populace. That being said, I feel like the way they handled that in this movie was so brilliant. He said, "This is all lies," you know, I like I just said, and just it's totally a tip of the cap to that element of nerddom, and I thought it was pretty classy. I really dug it. So, moving on, we get Caliban, we get Logan, we get Professor X, we get X-23, and then we get a bunch of kids. This is the one departure that I felt like was kind of diminished the source material a little bit, because, and now I very well could be wrong about this, because, as I've said before, I haven't read a whole lot of X-23 stuff. Deadpool Kills Marvel Universe is probably the most in-depth thing that I've read for X-23. And like I said, I've also read, probably 4 or 5 issues of the new Wolverine. So I am familiar with the character of X-23. I do know a bit. However, I don't know a whole lot about her comic book origins from reading. From reading the books. I've read, the Wikipedia on her and stuff. So again, I know a bit, but I'm not the expert on X-23. However, I do know that she is X-23. She is the one and only X-23. And in the movie, there's a group of kids who Transigen was trying to recreate, because for some reason, and you find out throughout the course of the movie that it's because they're putting stuff in people's foods, and it's really great subtleties that they kind of pump in there with these energy drinks and with this cloned corn that they're growing. You get these commercials in the background and references and dialogue, but there's no hard, this is what's going on, until about 2/3 of the way through the movie, where the guy from Transigen says, why let random mutations happen when we can control it? And how do you think we're controlling it? Nobody eats this, they drink it. And it's really great on subtlety, which has not been Fox Marvel strong suit. So the subtlety in this movie is fantastic. But yeah, X-23 is the one and only X-23 in the comics, and in this movie, there's a group of kids, and they all have different powers, which come into play towards the end. I just felt like that's one thing that was a strange choice to make in my head, because they could all have their own numbers, and she could be the last of the group at 23, and then the new creation that they make, that is a direct clone of Logan, could still be X-24. Like, they didn't have to do it the way that they did. It's really minor semantic stuff, but it's enough that kind of got a little annoying. Again, it's nothing gigantic, but moving on. The clone, since we just got there, man, Hugh Jackman is in incredible shape. like you can kind of tell throughout the movie because, I mean, it's a Wolverine movie, so he's walking around in wife beaters and shirtless and stuff, and he's got scars. Something's wrong with his healing factor throughout this entire movie, and that's foreshadowing things that happen at the end. And so he's losing his healing factor. It doesn't really explain why ever in the whole movie. He thinks it's the adamantium that's in his skin and it's poisoning him. The Transigen guy kind of alludes that it's something else and that it's fixable, but we don't ever get a hard, fast reason why he's lost his, or is losing his mutant ability. Again, that's fairly minor qualm, nothing major. X-24, the reveal of X-24 was perfect. You don't get, like, you get an allusion to him in the beginning when they're showing the video, or I guess about halfway through the movie when you find out who Laura is, that she's an X-23, and it's this group of kids, and they were all supposed to be put to death, and they're trying to get up to these coordinates in North Dakota, I want to say, something like that. So they're supposed to be put to death because they were a failed project, and this new project is unstoppable. It's without a soul. It's soulless. And then you're like, well, what is the new project? And obviously that's another one of those things that those in the know, those kind of aware of what this story is going to potentially be, already know it's a clone, direct clone of Wolverine. So you're not really surprised at what the reveal is. You're just surprised at the reveal itself. It comes kind of late in the game in such a way that it catches you by surprise. Like, oh yeah, there's this other thing, and it just fucking killed Professor X. Like, he walked in, Professor X is on drugs, so he doesn't have his full mental capabilities. So you're under the assumption that it's Wolverine walking in because the camera play is very well done. It doesn't really show X-24. The Professor's talking to him because, again, you're assuming that he's recognizing, because he's half asleep, you're assuming he's recognizing the brain pattern. And if X-24 is a clone, then that makes sense because he's got drugs, so he can't fully see the brain pattern, and if he's a clone, they're close enough that it would confuse the Professor. He wakes up a little bit more and rolls over with X-24's hand over his chest and just impales him. Actually, it might have been a little bit lower because he doesn't die immediately. But the Laura, X-23, she knows, you kind of assume she knows from pretty quick. She's supposed to be asleep on the floor, but it shows her wake up as he's walking in, and she gets really suspicious and slightly confusing because you're like, why would she be suspicious? Oh yeah, because that's not Logan. And then we see his face, and it's still Hugh Jackman, but it's Hugh Jackman without all the scars and with proper dark colored hair and facial hair. Just, almost looks like Liev Schreiber in the first Wolverine movie, the Origin movie, which was a total abomination. So that was really awesome because it's like, wow, that's even hearkening back to the bad movies. Like, they don't want to completely ignore that they exist, but they are kind of like scooting them under the rug. So Wolverine and X-24 battle it out. I am leaving out a significant amount of this story. I'm just giving you the bullet points because this is going to be a short one. But they battle it out. Logan, being older and his healing factor not 100%, can't hack it as well. So Deus Ex Machina being what it is, we get a truck, takes out X-24 just in the nick of time, so Logan can get away, get X-24 or X-23 out of there, and grab the Professor. And it's just, man. So if you didn't think a superhero movie could make you feel all gooey inside. You get freaking emotional at this movie. There is nothing in any of the previous X-Men, any of the previous superhero movies where you're going, man, that's tough, or that like wrenches you right here. But once we get to the part where, I mean, we've established this relationship between Xavier and Logan, and Logan's taking care of Xavier because he's going crazy, and he freaking loves the guy. He'll never say it because that's Wolverine for you, but like you can see that he cares for Professor, and Professor obviously cares about everybody. That was the whole thing about the school, is that he cared about what happened to mutant kind. So we have this relationship, and then when X-24 stabs the Professor, it's just, oh, we know it's coming. This is, I don't know for sure this is the last movie for Patrick Stewart, but it's definitely the last movie for Hugh Jackman, so we know it's coming. But when it happens, it's damn. And just the look on his, and like the first 20 minutes of this movie, I was going, man, if I never have to hear Patrick Stewart say Logan, Logan again, it'll be too soon. But like, it establishes that he is this, he's this pitiful shell of who he once was, and then we find out that he had an accident and killed a lot of people. He's the reason why there's less mutants in the world, and it's really sad. And he has this moment, and then X-24 takes him out, and after the fight, Wolverine carries him out to the truck, and he's just a puddle, not just because he's bleeding to death, but like the tears that are just, and the whole time Logan saying it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, just really like reassuring to the Professor, just so he, when as he's going out, as he's slipping away into the darkness that is, he knows that it wasn't Logan that did it, because he couldn't tell. He's drugged, he can't feel. So first moment in this movie where you go, damn, that's heavy. And then we move on. He finally gets, so Lara, X-23, convinces him, because he's not going to take her. He says, no, we're not going to take you. I am not going to take you to those coordinates, because the nurse who saved you got them out of a comic book, and comic books are lies. The comic books aren't real. They didn't actually happen. So she convinces him to just take her there. As they get there, the Transigen guys are hot on their trail. They catch up. One of the things when X-24 takes out the Professor, one of the things that happen in the scenes around that is Lara has a picture of all of the kids from the experiments, and has all their names on the back, and also has the coordinates for where they're going on the back. It's a place called Eden. Apparently, it's in a book. It's in a book from the 90s is what the art looked like, so I didn't read a whole lot of that stuff. But, I mean, I'm sure you'll tell me if I need to read that one. So, through all of the commotion with X-24 coming and killing the Professor and killing the family that's giving them, that gave them a place to sleep and food that night, she gets carried out, so she can't grab her bag that she definitely protects like it's her life. She can't take that with her because she's bound as she's leaving, and so as part of the cleanup, the Transigen people find that picture, and so they get to the coordinates. Logan and Laura get to the coordinates, and little do they know that Transigen has the coordinates, and so they're not too far behind. We meet all of the other kids. We see most of their powers, which is really awesome. They take out the lead military guy for Transigen in a very, very awesome way. Oh, by the way, this movie's rated R, and if you didn't know that going in, you learn that very quick. The opening scene is ridiculously gory, and there's a couple of times in this movie where they say fuck just because they can. I am all for using whatever language you want to use, but at a certain point, it's like, I mean, you are just doing this, you were just using this language because you didn't get to use it in the previous 10, 15 movies that you made leading up to this point, excluding Deadpool. So, like, there is dialogue that would have been more suited to use than just saying fuck 17 times. That's the direction they went. It's not extremely distracting, but there are definitely a couple of spots where it's like, yeah, you could have gone with actual dialogue instead of just a random list of expletives, and that would have furthered your story a little more and made me more engrossed in it. But again, minor qualm with that element. And also, this movie's rated R, so they had to have a gratuitous tit shot. In Deadpool, it was a strip club. That kind of made sense as far as the story goes. In Logan, it's towards the beginning of the movie when he's driving the cab for people. It's a bachelorette party, it would seem, and the bride-to-be flashes him, "Hey, driver," and then she whips him out, and it's like, that does nothing for the story. It lets us know that we're making a proper rated R movie, and that's it. There's no, like, again, it made sense in Deadpool, A, because of the irreverence of Deadpool, just as a general statement, but B, because that's where Morena Baccarin, character name inserted here, that's where she worked. She worked at a strip club because she needed money. She had to do it any way she knew how, and that's the way she knew how, was to be a cocktail waitress at a strip club. That worked into the story properly. This works into the story just because it's an R-rated movie. But anyway, so they finally get to these coordinates. Meet all the kids. Logan's out for 2 days, recuperating. They're injecting him with this serum that if you take too much of it, it'll make you crazy. But if you take it little bits at a time, it helps renew your mutant abilities, which for Logan is healing. He heals up well enough that he can walk around again in 2 days, and then he wakes up again and the kids are gone because they met their deadline. They're going to those coordinates, so they're just shy of those coordinates when they found it, when they get there to begin with, and the coordinates that are in the comic book that all of these kids have are just over the mountain, I think. Again, this one's slightly confusing because they all were supposed to meet at these certain coordinates and these coordinates are supposed to be where Eden is, but when they get there, it's just this little shack with binoculars and this wench so that they get Logan up the side of this mountain on a they get Logan up the side of this mountain on a bed, on a plank, and so you're going, wait, this is Eden? And then they say, and then they show Laura where Eden is supposed to be. It's just on the other side of this ridge. So once they hit this deadline, the deadline that everybody has to get to this spot, then they're going to Eden. But the whole time you're working up to it, those coordinates are supposed to be for where Eden is. So it's slightly confusing. But only if you're paying close enough attention is it confusing. Because if you're just going with the flow of the movie, it makes total sense. So he wakes up on day number 3. So he's out for 2 days, wakes up the second day, and kind of talks with these kids. And says, all right, I'll leave in the morning, or they're leaving in the morning. And then so he goes, they all crash that night. He wakes up after the break of dawn. They're leaving before dawn so that they can make it there. And he wakes up and it's bright daylight outside. Epic battle ensues at the end. A couple of these kids unfortunately die, which is kind of messed up. Wolverine stops a good chunk of it. Lara helps in epic fashion. They sick X-24 on Wolverine. Epic battle. Epic battle. They drop a freaking armored truck onto X-24 at one point. It's amazing. All of these kids kind of just helping to take out all these military guys from Transigen. And X-24 spikes Logan onto a tree branch. And his healing factor is kaput at that point. So we all knew it was coming. It's his last movie as Wolverine. So Hugh Jackman had to go out in style. Definitely went out in style. Definitely, man, makes you want to freaking cry. It's just that powerful. Just watching the last 10-15 minutes of this movie was like, damn, really? And yeah. So that's the end of the movie. It needs to be said first, there is no after credits scene. There is a pre-movie scene. We get 3-5 minutes with Deadpool before the Logan movie starts, which is kind of awesome. And it's an allusion to Deadpool 2. They're teasing us with. There's a lot of really hidden things in that first opening scene too. So pay attention. He's changing in the phone booth like Superman. There's advertisements for Wolverine. I feel like I saw a Batman logo in the background, which is kind of hilarious. Just a lot of really awesome little things to keep your eyes open for. But the one, this is the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about with this review, is X-23, Lara. In this movie, this little girl is amazing. There's going to be so many more cosplayers at Comic-Con this year who dress as Lara than as Elle from Stranger Things. This is just all right. So we've had the conversation of, is it better to create a new character from scratch and make them awesome, and then also this character just happens to be a minority or female or something other than straight white cisgender male. This, I feel like, is one of the better ways to do it. I was kind of wishy-washy when I was talking about it before in the Week in Nerddom discussion, but this makes you feel a couple of things. A, you feel really sad because this girl has no father. For all intents and purposes, Logan is her father, and she's 11, 12 now, and just met him. She's a clone of him, effectively. Not effectively, she is. In the comic book, she's a direct clone. In this movie, she's cloned DNA that they then impregnated with local females. So they were in Mexico, so she's Mexican. So this, like, there's no jump in logic. There's no just, hey, Wolverine's a girl now. There is a legitimate handing of the torch. I need to read Iron Man to see if Ironheart is along these same lines of, this is a legitimate, here you go, kid, I'm done with this, it's your turn to shine. But this execution of changing the gender or the ethnicity of an existing hero is totally acceptable. And far be it from me to say, oh, that you can't do that, because it's not my property. I have no stake in the matter whatsoever. But I do enjoy the character of Wolverine. So if you're going to take a character I love and do something to him, I feel like if I'm okay with it, then by all means. So not only is her mother Mexican, she's raised in Mexico, so she speaks primarily Spanish and very little English. And she is a total badass. The first fight scene that she's in, they send like 5 guys in a building after her. All you hear is screams, and then she walks out holding one of the guys' heads. And it's like, yeah, all right, something awesome is going to happen. And then she and Logan just tear apart this whole battalion. Just phenomenal. There's very little in this world that is more entertaining than that scene, that first fight scene with Laura and Logan. And I say kudos to the filmmakers, because I buy that she's the new Wolverine now. I haven't read the books. I'm sure I would really dig the transition in the books because of the way in which Wolverine dies. I feel like that's going to be incredibly interesting once I read it. I know the story, so I just want to see it happen. This movie is incredible. If you have not yet seen it and you've watched to the end of this video or listened to the end of this episode, please don't let my shortcomings as an orator stop you from seeing this movie. This movie's fantastic. I feel like that 50-50 chance that I gave them before when we were talking in the Weekend Nerddom, that 50-50 chance came out on the positive side, because damn, they learned their lesson with the last 2 Wolverine movies, and they learned their lesson with Deadpool, that you can make an incredibly accurate, I mean, and not that Logan is incredibly accurate to the Old Man Logan story, we've already covered that. They couldn't be incredibly accurate, but they are faithful. That's the better word. They're faithful to that source material in a very, very fantastic way. Again, thank you so much for watching to the end of this. If you did like what you heard, then please click that subscribe link. Check out some of my other videos. Check out the website, generallynerdy.net. I write stuff up there all the time. I also link to all my other social media and other outlets through the website. So check generallynerdy.net. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, remember, if it is generally nerdy, then it's probably here.